dapat po munang alamin or matukoy ang pangunahing problema ng bansa upang mapagtuunan ng pansin at mabigyan ng solusyon.
We should have specific goals, do research, and make a policy that is fair for everyone.
Walang problema sa pulisiya. Iayos lang ang pagpapatupad.
Bago patubas ang batas, pag-aralan muna gusto ng government.
Two things, clarity and execution. Both, you need the communication and monitoring. As simple as that.
Mandato ng Philippine Institute for Development Studies o PIDS na gumawa ng mga pag-aaral at pananaliksik ng mga polisiya at programa ng pamahalaan at magbigay ng rekomendasyon sa mga mambabatas sa pagbabalangkas ng mga polisiyang makakatulong sa ating bansa. Sinusulong ng aming ahensya ang evidence-based policy making upang bigyan diin ang kahalagahan ng polisiya na batay sa datos at policy research na sumusuri sa tunay na kalagayan ng ating mga komunidad. Napakahalaga ng policy research, lalo na sa mga panahong dumadaan sa krisis ang ating bansa.
Kapag pinag-aralan, susulong ang bayan!
In need of references for your research? Do you want a digital library that you can access for free anytime and anywhere? You don't have to look far. SERPI is here for you. SERPI is an online database of socioeconomic materials produced by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, government agencies, research and academic institutions, and international organizations based in the Philippines. It is the country's first online repository of socioeconomic information, created for policymakers and development practitioners, researchers, educators, and students. To access SERPI, just visit the PIDS website and click the SERPI widget under the Databases tab, or type serp-p.pids.gov.ph. SERPI has a wide variety of materials such as journal articles, books, research papers, working papers, policy notes, audiovisual materials, and more. As of 2022, SERPI has more than 60 partner institutions contributing knowledge resources to the database. SERPI provides a comprehensive coverage of references encompassing 22 research themes: labor and education, gender and development, poverty, technology and innovation, trade and industry, and many more. On the enhanced website of SERPI, you can filter your research by keyword or author, publication type, research theme, or year published, all at the same time. SERPI has more than 7,000 publications and audiovisual materials that you can access and download for free. What are you waiting for? Visit SERPI now. Socioeconomic Research Portal for the Philippines, innovating knowledge exchange and policy research.
So what is PIDS? For over 40 years, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, has been the country's foremost socio-economic think tank. It conducts rigorous and objective policy research and analyses that help the government in crafting relevant policies, plans, and programs in support of the country's long-term vision and development goals. PIDS pursues its mandate through three basic programs: research, dissemination, and outreach. Through its research program, PIDS identifies and prioritizes studies, develops proposals, and conducts research on priority areas. The results of these studies are then disseminated through different platforms, publications, online resources, PIDS Corner, seminars, and the Development Policy Research Month, or DPRM, held every September. To shed light on key policy issues, the advice and expertise of the Institute's research fellows are also sought by policymakers, government agencies, private sector, and civil society. Since 1977, PIDS has completed numerous policy studies on a wide range of development topics. This brand of service has then translated to policies and programs that have improved the lives of every Filipino. Philippine Institute for Development Studies. Service through policy research.
Welcome to the PIDS webinar series. Before we start our virtual event, we have some reminders. For attendees, your microphone is automatically muted upon entry. If you wish to join the discussion, click the Q&A icon, type your question, and click Send. For Facebook viewers, you may send your question using the comment section. Remember to keep your questions concise and direct to the point. We will screen all questions to ensure that they are relevant to the webinar topic and the presentation. The moderator will read the questions during the open forum and cover as many as possible depending on the available time. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed on the PIDS and SERPI Facebook pages. The recording will also be made publicly available on the PIDS YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your active participation.
Good morning and welcome to another PIDS public webinar titled From Challenges to Capacities, Empowering HEIs for Sustainable Innovation. I am Eliza Briones Mendoza, your host and moderator for today's session. Across the country and the world, higher education institutions are under growing pressure. They are being asked to do more with less. From training future-ready graduates and producing high-impact research to partnering with industries and addressing community needs, HEIs are at the center of it all. But how do we ensure that they not only survive, but thrive? At the same time, innovation has become a buzzword. But real, sustainable innovation, that requires more than just tools or technologies. It takes capacity, leadership, partnerships, and vision. In many regions, especially outside of Metro Manila, HEIs are already doing the work, quietly leading local innovation, supporting agribusiness, and building inclusive ecosystems from the ground up. In today's webinar, we will dive into two featured PIDS studies that take a closer look at these challenges and opportunities. One explores the financial sustainabilities of HEIs in the Philippines, while the other focuses on how HEIs in Central Visayas are contributing to innovation ecosystems, particularly in the agribusiness sector. We have invited researchers and experts to share their findings and practical recommendations. So whether you are in the academia, government, the private sector, or civil society, we hope that this conversation sparks new ideas and ways forwards for supporting higher education in meaningful, transformative ways. So to formally start our program, it is my honor to welcome PIDS President Philip Arnold Tuanyo, PhD, for his opening remarks.
Good morning, Eliza. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, partners in policy and research. Good morning. Let me begin by acknowledging the presence of our distinguished guests and officials, as we are blessed with many top higher education officials in the country in our webinar this morning. These include Agusan del Sur State College and Agriculture and Technology President Dr. Joy Capistano, Cebu Institute of Technology University President Engineer Bernard Nicolas Villamor, Global Academy of Technology Entrepreneurship Incorporated President Elmer Cadiz, La Consolacion University Philippines President Dr. Niseta Vargas, Lyceum of Tingloy de San Roque Incorporated President Dr. Marmelo Abante, Philippine Nazarene College President Reverend Alan Paprado, Philippine Women's University President Marco Alfredo Benitez, San Mateo Municipal College OIC President Dr. Deltino Aquino, Wesleyan University Philippines Director Euphemia Airo, Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Senior Vice President Rene Paulo Legaspi, Association of Christian Schools, Colleges and Universities Executive Director Elorde Sambat, and all other officials and of higher education institutions and education organizations. We are very pleased that you are here this morning. I would also like to warmly acknowledge the presence of our colleagues from the government, the academe, the civil society, private sector, and international organizations who are joining us virtually this morning. Your participation speaks volume about our shared interest and commitment to strengthen our country's higher education institutions, not only as centers of learning, but as drivers of inclusive and sustainable development. Our theme this morning, From Challenges to Capacities, Empowering HEIs for Sustainable Innovation, speaks directly to a reality that many developing economies like ours are facing. We are increasingly relying on our higher education institutions to respond to ever-evolving global challenges, from technological disruptions, climate change, food insecurity, to widening skills gaps, while at the same time expecting them to meet additional mandates in teaching, research, and public service. This is a tall order, and it comes at a time when many institutions in both developed and developing countries are under immense pressure. Let me give you some global context. According to the 2022 UNESCO report, only 40% of youth globally are enrolled in higher education, with wide disparities across regions. In sub-Saharan Africa, the rate only reached 9%. And in Southeast Asia, it hovers around 35%, with the Philippines reaching almost the same percentage. However, as we all know, access does not guarantee equity or equality. Recent analysis from a World Bank paper also emphasizes that low and middle-income countries face three interconnected challenges: limited public financing for higher education, outdated curriculum misaligned with labor market needs, and insufficient links between HEIs and innovation ecosystems. It also warns that failure to invest adequately in tertiary education could cost countries up to 17% of potential gross domestic product in lost productivity due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, which have further compounded the learning crisis. In terms of financing, the global average for public expenditure on tertiary education is around 1.5% of GDP. In the Philippines, it has traditionally remained below 1%, even accounting for the expansion of scholarship and tuition support programs during the past several years. This is significantly lower than levels recommended by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and far below what fast-growing innovation-driven economies allocate to higher learning. And yet, despite these formidable challenges, higher education remains one of the most powerful levers for national transformation. In fact, studies by UNESCO and the World Economic Forum have consistently shown that countries with more diversified and innovative higher education systems exhibit higher social mobility, stronger civic engagement, and more resilient economies. But for this to happen, our HEI need more than mandates. They need meaningful support. To empower higher education institutions for sustainable innovation, we must rethink how we define innovation itself. Not merely as new technologies or startups, but as a transformation in how we fund research, incentivize collaboration, and measure success. Most importantly, we need policy coherence where education, labor, research, and development strategies move in the same direction, as institutions cannot thrive in fragmented systems. This is where we at the PIDS hope to contribute. By generating timely, evidence-based research, we aim to help frame policies, programs, and partnerships that can empower our HEIs to go beyond surviving and to truly lead in building a resilient, inclusive, and innovation-ready Philippines. Today's webinar offers an opportunity to explore these issues in depth. Our first presenter, PIDS Senior Research Fellow Dr. Connie Bayudan Lakoykoy, will discuss a study entitled Financial Sustainability of Higher Education Institutions in the Philippines. The study addresses financial sustainability of higher education institutions in the country and recommends reforms for better risk management, revenue diversification, and resilience. Following this, PIDS Senior Research Fellow Dr. Francis Marquimba will present a study on HEIs, i.e., higher education institutions, generating holistic and transferable solutions, innovative ecosystems, Philippines. The study focuses on innovative ecosystems, highlighting how HEIs, particularly in Central Visayas, can lead to regional innovation, support agribusiness, and strengthen intersectoral collaboration. I personally read the two studies this past few weeks, and these are very interesting findings, and hopefully this will also generate ideas on how to push forward higher education in the country. To provide expert insights and perspectives, we are honored to have Department of Economy, Planning, and Development DepDev Chief Economic Development Specialist, Yuko Lisette Domingo of the Education and Skills Development Division, and also Neil Andrew Menjares of DepDev Region 7 Policy Formulation and Planning Division. We are also very privileged to have University of Makati President-elect Sir Ramos, or Prof. X, as one of our discussants. I encourage all of you to participate actively, bring your questions forward, and share your institutional experiences. Let us use this space to exchange ideas, surface gaps, and explore actionable solutions. Let me close by saying that our higher education institutions are more than schools, they are our nation builders. The sustainability of our HEIs are our shared responsibility. So let us work together in achieving their success, as this will reflect the success of our nation. Together, let us turn challenges into capacities. Maraming salamat. I now turn over the floor to our moderator, please.
Thank you so much, Sir Randy, for setting the stage for today's discussion. Indeed, our higher education institutions are more than just schools, they are nation builders. And our conversation this morning will reflect our shared responsibility in working together for our HEIs. Muli, maraming salamat, Sir Randy. So before we proceed, let us start with a very quick poll just to hear your thoughts on our topic this morning. So we will be flashing on screen, the question. Which strategy is most effective in empowering HEIs to become drivers of sustainable education, sustainable innovation? So the choices are flashed on your screen. For those on Zoom, kindly just click the link posted in the chat box. And for our Facebook Live viewers, you will find the link in the comment section. So the poll question on your screen connects to today's discussion. So again, the question is, which strategy is most effective in empowering HEIs to become drivers of sustainable innovation? So I think we have 4 items there. So which do you think is the most effective strategy? So while you're answering, we'd like to share that we have over 300 Zoom attendees this morning and over 30 and counting live viewers on the PIDS Facebook page. We encourage everyone to take part in answering today's survey and also to share the link, the Facebook link, to your colleagues, to your networks, to your families and friends. Now I think we're ready to take a look at the results. Team, please display the poll findings. Wow, a lot of you have responded, about 80 respondents in our poll. And most of you said that strengthening university, industry, government partnerships would be the most effective strategy in empowering HEIs. Wow, surprisingly, only 11 answered increasing access to innovation grants and resources. So I thought, bago ibigay yung poll question, I thought this would garner the highest response, but strengthening university and industry government partnerships ang pulso ng ating mga participants and viewers. So again, thank you for participating. Nagsisimula pa lang tayo. And let us know your thoughts by using our hashtag later on during the discussion and even after this webinar, by using our hashtag FutureReadyHEIs, hashtag AgriInnovation, hashtag HigherEdPH, hashtag Inclusive Innovation in social media so we can track our conversations. So ayan, now I think we're ready to proceed with our presentation. Our first presentation is based on the PIDS study titled Financial Sustainability of Higher Education Institutions in the Philippines, authored by PIDS Senior Research Fellow Dr. Connie Bayudan Dakuykui, University of the Philippines Diliman Assistant Professor Dr. Herisadel Flores, and De La Salle University Professor Dr. Arnel Onesimo Uy. This study offers a deep dive into funding gaps, risks, and institutional strategies. It also recommends critical reforms to help HEI survive and thrive. This morning, we are very honored to have Dr. Connie Bayudan Dakuykui as our presenter. She is our Senior Research Fellow and holds a PhD in economics from Kyoto University in Japan. Her research interests include household, family and gender issues, poverty analysis, and applied economic modeling. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give all our attention to Dr. Connie Dakuykui as she begins her presentation. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Okay, so while they're setting up, so I just want to say good day to all of us. And let me acknowledge Mr. Herisadel Flores, who has joined us today as also as a panelist. And of course, Dr. Arnel Uy of the College of Business, De La Salle University. They are my co-authors of the paper that's going to be presented today. To sum up, the paper essentially aims to identify issues and challenges and provides recommendations moving forward. So just for context, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so just for context, we know that the Philippines aims to become a high-income economy and inclusive society, and this aspiration is evident in national documents, like for example, the Ambition Natin 2040, that outlines the Filipino aspirations of strongly rooted, comfortable and secure life. In that document, education services is one of the key sectors that are identified. Even the Philippine Development Plan, which is our national development blueprint, it outlines strategies to achieve our socioeconomic goals, and there is a specific chapter on strategies related to the tertiary education sector. So as already mentioned by President Randy earlier, HEIs play a critical role in nation building, and it's very critical in attaining these aspirations. And these are, and everyone is actually aligned with this with this aspiration. It's evident in the higher education related laws that are enacted in recent years, including the 2017 Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act and the 2019 Transnationalization of Higher Education. So if just to set the tone on what financial sustainability is, the definition that we've adopted came from USAID, which is HEI's ability to produce desired outcomes over time. So desired outcomes. So when we talk of the outcome, we thought that the outcome that's really relevant in today's conversation, especially with the EdCop2, would be quality education. So that means having good programs, being able to be competitive at the global and local and global stages, and of course, producing employable graduates. But we have to remember that outcomes have costs. Achieving outcomes rather have costs. So for example, you need investments in resources, you need to continuously comply with accreditation and quality standards. But of course, there are also benefits. When you achieve these outcomes, it will improve your reputation, it will improve, the HEI will improve international rankings, increased fundings, donors, and of course, attract students and increase enrollments. So next slide, please. So just to provide some other context, the Philippine HEIs are mostly private, around 72% in 2019, academic year 2019, 72% if we include the satellite campuses. Private HEIs also have experienced a decline in enrollment. We've done some simple calculation of the compound annual growth rate, and we found that between the 10-year compound annual growth rate of private HEIs and enrollment is significantly lower than that of public HEIs. So it's between 0.8% so it's 0.8% for private HEIs and 4% for public HEIs. In addition, so in addition, there is also a very low percentage of autonomous and regulated private HEIs, which we found to be 4.3% only of the total HEIs in academic year 2019. But in terms of SUCs, because SUCs they are not they have different leveling instruments. We found that 52% of the 100 SUCs are level 3, 19% are level 4, and none are level 5, which are supposed to be comparable to the best universities in academic year 2019. Next slide, please. Okay, so further context, there are, as I mentioned already, there are HEI-related laws and policies that's designed to enhance access and quality, and we've already mentioned the UACTEA. So just some figures there, just trying to get a sense of what happened before and after the UACTEA was implemented. So you can see that it's relatively flat. Before the implementation, it has increased in terms of government expenditures. There's also the 2019 Transnational Higher Education Act, which aims to encourage, promote, and accelerate the internationalization in the country. And this has, in a way, provided opportunities for research and collaboration with foreign HEIs and academic expansion. So in the next slide, please. Okay, so our research question is flashed on the screen, but essentially what we found is that even though financial sustainability is really important in terms of the survival of HEIs, we found that financial sustainability in itself is rarely discussed in national documents. So wala siyang space per se in national documents, and even in the literature that we've scoped, it's rarely discussed. But it's discussed in narrower aspects, like for example, revenue resources, financing mechanisms, and spending strategies. So essentially, what we wanted to do in the paper is to address the overarching research question: how can financing of the higher education systems and institutions become more sustainable? In particular, the study analyzes the factors affecting HEI's financial sustainability and the strategies they used. And then later, we'll try to come up with some recommendations moving forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so just some pahapyaw lang on the methodology. We've used mixed methods approach, mixed methods in the sense that we've used secondary and primary data, and we've conducted the collection of those data in 3 phases. So the first phase would be the desk review and the scoping, and then the second phase we've conducted systems thinking workshop, and then the third phase we've conducted key informant interviews, and the key informant interviews were participated by top administrators and also coming from different government agencies and researchers and CSOs as well. And then later on, we validated that. We conducted another workshop to validate our findings. So in terms of the sampling strategy, we've we implemented 2-stage selection strategy. So we've obtained the full list of HEIs from CHED, and then we've used as a first stage, we've used stratified sampling, and we have identified 5 strata: LUCs, SUCs, regulated private HEIs, and then deregulated autonomous private HEIs, and then private HEIs and TBIs. And then we've drawn 20 HEIs from this stratum. And then on the second stage, we used purposive sampling. So what we did was we contacted 10 from each stratum, and then we keep on replacing because there sometimes the responses are negative, and sometimes they are not available for some reason. So that's what we did. And so based on that methodology, we were able to interview 29 institutions, 9 private HEIs, 9 public HEIs, and 11 stakeholders coming from civil society organizations, government agencies, and researchers. And in total, these interviews were participated by 38 individuals, and they shared their experiences. They shared insights and ideas and experiences based on their capacity, on their experiences in performing various capacities. Like for example, the presidents, vice presidents, dean, chief finance officers, controllers, association leaders, teachers, and researchers. And our online interviews were conducted between June 5 to September 19, 2023. Next slide, please. So going to the synthesis of the interview, so the first thing that we wanted to know is what is the current state of HEI financing? And of course, we already know this, but still, I think it's worth repeating that HEIs mainly rely on tuition fees, both public and private. They rely on tuition fees and enrollment to finance their operations. But SUCs also rely on government subsidies. There are other revenue sources. Some SUCs that we've collected, and we've seen this in all the data that we've collected. They also have other revenue sources, but these resources are disproportionately small. So for example, they have donations and endowment funds, but we found that donations and endowment funds are limited only to big and prestigious schools. So typically, these are harnessed by schools that have historically produced graduates rising into prominent positions in the business sector and society. They also have other services like joint ventures and consultancies. But of course, what we found was that only few HEIs have adequate resources to implement lucrative joint ventures and engage in consultancies. So for example, perhaps because they lack manpower and they lack other resources. So next slide would be understanding of HEI financial sustainability. And here we found that how financial sustainability is understood is a little bit nuanced. So it depends on the type of HEI. For example, public HEIs, for them, financial sustainability is the ability to fund operational and maintenance costs and capex with less reliance on state subsidies. While for private HEIs, financial sustainability is the ability to generate revenues, pursue cash viability, and minimize cost. Financial sustainability also differs among LUCs. So for example, social enterprise versus local economic enterprise have different ways of articulating financial sustainability, because local economic enterprises, they have to generate their income, and therefore they need resources like human capital and then physical and human capital infrastructures. So even among private HEIs, there are nuances in terms of how they define financial sustainability. So for example, for private HEIs, they are aggressive in marketing, branding, while for nonprofit, they are focused more on their mission and vision. Listed and non-listed also have nuanced definition. For example, listed are listed HEIs. They are answerable to shareholders, and therefore they adopt strategic directions to resource management, transparency, and accountability. Even the sectarian, if we compare sectarian and non-sectarian, sectarian have better support system from the religious affiliations. And then, of course, autonomous and the regulated HEIs have higher level of independence in making administrative and academic related decisions relevant to financial sustainability compared to those that are regulated. So, but despite these nuances, we found that there is a general understanding that financial sustainability is actually meeting present needs while producing valued outcomes, delivering producing valued results, delivering promised outcomes aligned with society's aspiration, and ensuring long-term resilience. So that's the general theme that we've come up with in terms of the synthesis of the understanding of the financial sustainability in HEI. Next slide, please. So in terms of the factors that shape HEI, that shape the HEI financial sustainability, we've categorized this into two: HEI level and national level. So in terms of the HEI level, one of the factors that really stood out would be the pursuit of quality education that's aligned with the HEI's mission and vision. This really makes sense because key to attracting students is providing quality educational products and services. Parents are really discerning nowadays in choosing schools where they send their children to. They look for programs with a track record of producing successful graduates. So they're looking at employability. And so delivering promised outcomes results in higher enrollment and a better revenue stream. However, we found that some HEIs have difficulties pursuing quality enhancing initiatives, like, for example, accreditation, and stuff like that. For example, LUCs, they rely on their host LGUs for operations and budget management. And they also, and so they have less autonomy in terms of where to get the money in terms of pursuing quality enhancing initiatives. LGUs also have limits on their personal services expenditures. So merong limit yung kanilang PS expenditures. And this presents substantial barriers for LUCs to hire more full-time teachers and making them less attractive employment options. So nahirapan silang makakuha ng full-time teachers. Precisely because LUCs are part of the budget in the LGUs. And so they are also part of the personal expenditures, cap on the PS expenditures. So the second factor at the HEI level would be the HEI leadership and governance. So here, what we gathered was that these leadership and governance are needed to attain the school's mission and vision, to achieve key performance indicators, promote transparency and accountability, and attract clients and values. So this highlights the importance of leadership with integrity and a strong commitment to delivering promised outcomes. And then we also identified shifts in learners' demand for learning opportunities. So for example, before there's just the traditional higher education programs, but recently technical vocational education has become popular. Micro-credentials and short programs have also become popular as well. And this highlights the need for the development of innovative programs at a quicker pace. So next slide, please. At the national level, we've identified also three themes. The one would be the national policies and regulations that affect, for example, enrollment and intake in private HEIs. And that would be the free tuition in SUCs, or the free higher education that's embedded in the UACTEA. There are also national policies that affect the ability of HEI. Sorry, not policies, but rather, so that policies that affect the ability of HEIs to respond to labor market needs, thus limiting the abilities to attract clients. So, for example, there's a very slow turnaround time in terms of curriculum review and approval by CHED. So that's one of the factors identified by most participants. And at the same time, national policies, like, for example, procurement rules that affect the ability of public HEIs to operate efficiently. Political disruptions, also next slide, political disruptions, also one of the factors, and this is specific to LUCs. We've gathered this from the conversations with LUC administrators, and the idea that the insights that they've shared would be they have the lack of legal entity and the fiscal the lack of fiscal autonomy limits their capacity to engage in long-term development planning that leaves them vulnerable to political partisanships. So these have implications for LUCs. So, because their funds may be subject to available LGU budgets, and they also lack. They don't have separate. We gathered that they do not have separate tax identification numbers, which constrains the strategies that they can pursue relative to revenue diversification. So, for example, putting up a foundation, pursuing endowments, and at the same time, diversification in cash flow management. So, a change in LGU leadership, which can have different priorities, can have major implications for financial support. But again, this one, we would like to point out that LUCs are heterogeneous, meaning there are LUCs that have good standing in terms of funding, in terms of resources, but there are also LUCs that do not have those kinds of privileges. Next would be inflation. Inflation has affected all HEIs as they struggle to deliver quality education while maintaining affordability. Inflation has also eroded household incomes, and so this adds financial strains on private HEIs as they strive to achieve a mix of paying and non-paying students. Inflation has also affected public HEIs due to lower freshman intake, as many high school graduates choose to work. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so the strategies to promote financial sustainability would be a combination of two things. So the first two listed there would be strategies for financial planning and resource optimization, including monitoring systems and pursuing optimization and green initiatives. And then the rest of the points listed there would be strategies to improve enrollment, reach more clients through good governance, digitization, and industry linkages. Next slide, please. Okay, so our key takeaways would be one, HEIs play a critical role in supporting international development goals and Filipinos' national aspirations, and therefore achieving quality. Higher education is important, but it has benefits and costs, making HEI's financial sustainability an important means to an end. HEI's financial sustainability is an educational asset, no, and it's also a strategic imperative if you wanted to survive. And so there is a need for national and HEI level policies and initiatives in order to ensure that HEIs can fulfill educational objectives, deliver valued outcomes, support societal advancement, and add tangible value to stakeholders. Now, having said all this, next slide, please. We've come up with recommendations at the national and HEI level. So at the national level, the general idea of our recommendation is we wanted to harness the virtuous cycle of financial sustainability and quality in the higher education system. And so we can explore the following. So policymakers to enact student-centric rather than HEI-centric scholarships and subsidies. So for example, instead of free tuition in public HEIs, the government can consider, for example, a voucher system that allows qualified students to choose their schools and programs. Another option would be to implement a socialized tuition fee in public HEIs and continue the tertiary education subsidy for private HEI students. So these options, we think, are options that can address the competition between public and private HEIs, enhance their complementarity, and eliminate private HEIs' perceptions of policy bias in favor of public HEIs. That's one. And then second, it will allow the more efficient use of public funds, since only those needing support will receive assistance, compared to, for example, to the free tuition granted to all enrolled in public HEIs regardless of income status. Next would be policymakers to enact a law on LUC operations and governance. So laws can prescribe the composition of the LUC governing board, define their powers, authorities, and provide clear and uniform guidelines on LUC's funding, financial management, administration, organizational structure, and staffing patterns. So that means providing greater stability in the LUC system. And then the third would be, again, for policymakers to harmonize the requirements on the full tax deductibility of donations in private and public HEIs. So based on our conversations with the administrators and the stakeholders, donations and the endowment funds, they have the potential to tame HEIs over reliance on enrollments and tuition fees. But there are difficulties in terms of getting donations, so perhaps incentivize it a little bit in terms of harmonizing the requirements. So we found that magkaiba yung requirements for private HEI donations and public HEI. So for private HEIs, full deductibility applies when the HEIs are accredited by the PCNC or the Philippine Council for NGO certification. So based on our findings, currently there are only 31 private HEIs that are accredited. For public HEIs naman, donations are earmarked for projects, full deductibility applies if donations are earmarked for projects specified in national priority plans. But we looked at the national priority plans, these are issued annually, but the plans may not necessarily have specific plans for the higher education sector. Okay, so we also identified CHED to develop and implement long-term policies and plans for tertiary education. Let me just check my time, 5 minutes. Okay. So we found that based on our conversation with the stakeholders, some regulations, some administrators, they found the regulations to be short term, and these entail high compliance costs that limit institutional flexibility and innovation. So for example, short-term policies in online instruction and the lengthy review of program curriculum. So they are asking for a comprehensive plan for the HEI ecosystem. And this comprehensive plan is something that outlines the government's commitment to development of both public and private HEIs, and articulates the role of government in fostering complementarity between public and private HEIs. So this blueprint is necessary. It will guide the HEIs products and services, how will they develop it, and it will also inform the planning, projection, and monitoring cycles and provide certainties, especially to private HEIs that need stability in cash flows to finance operation. And then CHED and HEIs to explore the establishment of more RUS or regional university systems to promote greater efficiency in SUC's resource use. Next slide, please. HEI level. So the general idea here would be, the context would be, HEIs need to attract students, partners, and donors by improving the quality of educational services they provide. So we've listed there three recommendations that the HEIs can look into. Okay, so because I'm running out of time, I think that I will end my presentation here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Connie, for that very insightful and eye-opening presentation. We have seen realities of our HEIs in the ground, no? And as we have heard, no, there are nuances in how financial sustainability is being perceived by HEIs, no? And there are various factors contributing to it. But on the takeaway, no, one thing is common. Our HEIs play a very critical role in meeting present needs, delivering promised outcomes, and ensuring long-term resilience in our higher education system. So again, Ma'am Connie, thank you very much. Please stay with us for the open forum later in the program. Yan. So to further deepen our conversation, our second study, titled HEIs, i.e. or Higher Education Institutions Generating Holistic and Transferable Solutions, Innovation Ecosystems Philippines, led by PIDS Senior Research Fellow Dr. Francis Mark Kimba, with former research analyst Abigail Andrada and supervising research specialist Mark Anthony Barral, maps the roles of HEIs in the agribusiness innovation ecosystem in Central Visayas. It highlights promising models, institutional bottlenecks, and the need for stronger linkages, updated IP policies, and innovation hubs that respond to regional needs and sustainability goals. To present the study, let us welcome Dr. Francis Mark Kimba, who is also a senior research fellow at the PIDS and the director of the Philippine Apex Studies Center Network. He focuses on innovation in local firms, trade, and rural development. With advanced degrees in development economics from Japan, he contributes to policy discussions on trade, industry, and e-commerce, supporting inclusive growth through research and international collaboration. Dr. Francis Markimba, you may now take the virtual floor, sir.
Thank you, Alisa. Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. We can
Great.
hear you.
So, good morning, everyone. On behalf of the authors, I am presenting the findings of our study titled Higher Education Institutions Engagement in Innovation Ecosystems in Lower Middle Income Countries, findings from the Philippines. The study, again, as mentioned, focuses on the innovation ecosystem, specifically for agribusiness in Central Visayas. Next slide, please. So the outline of the presentation will be as follows. So I want to talk about first a context on the innovation ecosystem in general in the Philippines, and then zeroing in on the innovation ecosystem in Central Visayas. Then identifying some issues based on literature review. Second would be identifying the samples and discussing the methodology of how to address the research questions that were identified for us by USAID and University of Notre Dame. Third would be the results and the findings, and finally some policy recommendations. Next slide, please. So to start, I want to begin by saying that the innovation in the Philippines has been a key research area and a development area since the 2015s. So and in 2019, there was an assessment on the innovation ecosystem in the Philippines, and it reported that a lot of government and university programs have already been developed to address identified challenges that were identified in 2015, such as establishing industry connections with government and academia. We want to spur entrepreneurship, education, human capital development, and enabling knowledge transfer and collaboration. But then, of course, there are some challenges. So when we were doing the study in 2021, the Philippines actually slid 8 notches down in the Global Innovation Index ranking. So 8 notches from 2021 to 2022. So, but of course, that was then. So now we were actually doing better. So the Philippines is still recognized for its potential to be an important player in the global innovation landscape, given its fast innovation catch-up. So when we were doing the study, we're actually 5th among 36th lower middle income countries, economies, in terms of the ranking, but now we're actually 3rd. So we're just following India and Vietnam. So most of the issues that were identified that we really need to develop were related to education and tertiary education, and thus that's the importance of this study. Next slide, please. So, well, of course, the government didn't rest on its laurels. They actually implemented a number of programs to address the issues identified back then. So, and they are still continuing to implement these programs. For example, the Department of Science and Industry implemented a number of initiatives. One key initiative is the Science for Change program, the S4CP, established in 2016. It aims to enhance regional innovation ecosystems, again, outside Luzon. So focusing on the non-Luzon regions or regions outside National Capital Region. The S4CP focuses on accelerating science, technology, and innovation by increasing investments in science and technology, human resource development, and in R&D. Higher education institutions can actually support the conduct of research through a number of funding sources. So there is the DOSTP card, DA bar, even the Commission on Higher Education and the DOSTP shared are actually also providing some research and funding, particularly for food processing, food processing research. There's also other sources, even the DA, Bureau of Plant Industry for crop research, and PhilMech for mechanization and post-harvest technology for key commodities are actually also providing some funding. Aside from that, so the Department of Trade and Industry also, to integrate the innovation and the entrepreneurial system, established the regional inclusive innovation centers. So in the diagram presented here, it identifies a number of RICs. Here it's actually just 4, but now it has actually also expanded to a number of RICs across the regions. RICS aims to create a network of innovation actors that collaborate to commercialize market-oriented research, enhance regional competitiveness, generate employment opportunities, and drive sustainable economic prosperity, particularly in the region where they are established. Okay, so now let's focus more on the next slide, please, on Region 7 and why we chose Region 7. So, Region 7 has been a key driver of the Philippine economy in recent years, and even in currently. So in 2017 to 2021, the region accounted for an average annual share of 6.5% of GDP, signifying that Region 7 is actually the largest economy in the Visayas and Mindanao. In terms of the landscape, the region possesses a budding innovation ecosystem. Cebu City was ranked 17th in the innovation pillar in the 2022 Cities and Municipalities Competitiveness Index. It was actually highly regarded for the use of the electronic business permit and licensing system, which supports their digitalization activities. There's actually an established RECOM, or the Regional Inclusive Innovation Committee, to connect a network of innovation agents, such as government, academia, and the private sector, to focus on market-oriented research. The region also has the 6th highest largest R&D expenditures in 2018. And in terms for the innovation ecosystem that we want to look into, we focused on the agribusiness innovation ecosystem. We defined the agribusiness as all activities encompassing related to agriculture, as you can see in the slide. So it includes farmers, processors, distributors, consumers, in a system responsible for producing and processing, transporting, marketing, and distributing agricultural goods. So not just focusing on agriculture, but all activities related to agriculture, including some of the manufacturing that's highly dependent on agricultural inputs. And these would include food and beverage manufacturing, wood products, paper and furniture, and others. And as you can see, if we're just going to focus on agriculture, it's just 0.9%. But if it expands in terms of number of establishments, but it expands to 1.2%, if we look at the broader definition of agribusiness. So agribusiness is actually larger. Next slide, please. So what's the innovation ecosystem in Region 7? So it's actually benefiting from NICER programs and CRADLE under the Science for Change program. So the niche or the NICER is the niche centers in the regions for R&D, equips HEIs with grants to conduct impactful regional research utilizing the existing capabilities of the HEIs. There's also a CRADLE in the collaborative R&D to leverage the Philippine economy, which is also a program that's being implemented in some HEIs in the region, and to foster technological advancement by funding HEIs, and they partner with local companies to enhance the competitiveness through improved products, research to improve processes, and other services. Okay, but beyond that, so we also identify through research and other studies that there are currently issues related to HEI involvement in general in the country, and in some are particularly for the Region 7. So while R&D funding, RDE funding in the Philippines is predominantly allocated to HEIs in the region, in the National Capital Region, with Luzon receiving the majority of resources even from the DOST Science for Change program. So even if it's outside NCR, Luzon benefits more. While innovation support through HEI offices is evident in Region 7, there is a scarcity of R&D personnel and non-governmental R&D funding, resulting in fewer Science for Change projects compared to other regions. And based on a survey done by the PIDS in 2021, so despite 60% of firms engaging in innovation cooperation with HEIs, only a fraction actually say that HEIs are vital sources of information. So it's not their main sources of information. So it's something that we need to enhance further. And there is a misalignment between HEI research efforts, which are expertise-driven rather than commodity-focused, and industry's expectation for rapid commercialization in Central Visayas. So given these current issues, we try to dig deeper and learn more about these issues to identify some lessons that can be applied to a greater set of lower middle income countries. Next slide, please. And so how do we go about that? Next slide, please. We identified well, as I mentioned, no, so that study is actually trying to identify lessons from that based from analyzing the involvement of HEIs in a very specific and local innovation system, so to inform policies and strategies to enable HEIs to further and effectively strengthen innovation ecosystems. And to do this, the study, as recommended by the funding agency and the other collaborators, derived the methodology from Hofecker in 2019 and the 5 R's framework by USAID to identify 8 research questions following 5 major themes. So the 5 major themes are outcomes, actors and roles, relationships, resources, and the enabling environment and rules. So the 8 research questions are actually distributed among these 5 major themes. For example, for outcomes and results, that's related to research question 1. Who are the actors and what are their roles is related to research question 2. How are they related? Their relationships is research question 3. 2 research questions 4 and 5 are related to the resources. So that's resource needs of HEIs and resource provision of HEIs. About the enabling environment, so the rest of the research questions are now looking at the enabling environment and the rules. So for government policy and higher education policy, that's 6A and 6B. We also look at the market as part of the enabling environment and the culture within the HEIs as also part of the enabling environment. So all these 8 research questions will be answered in the next coming slides. But first, I want to discuss very briefly in the next slide, please. How did we go about answering this question? So following similar presentation of Doconi, we also did the project in 3 phases. No? So first is a review of literature, initial mapping of and identifying stakeholders, and identifying key sector in the region that we selected. Second is phase 2 is implementing a systems thinking workshop in Region 7 to identify the current roles of the HEIs, which HEIs do we talk to, and root cause analysis of issues that we identified based on phase 1. Phase 3 is the conduct of key informant interviews based on the systems thinking workshop. We identified stakeholders, key interviewees, and to participate in focus group discussions and key informant interviews. And then similar to the conduct of the project earlier presented, we also conducted a validation workshop, again visiting Region 7 to present the results to our stakeholders and those that we interviewed as well. Next slide, please. We implemented a total of 6 focus group discussions participated in by 32 stakeholders, 13 from government, 10 from higher education institutions, and 9 from the private sector. We also conducted 12 key informant interviews participated in by a number of stakeholders. So what are our results? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, let's look at the research question 1. Research question 1 asks about how the innovation ecosystem is perceived. Now, what are the perceptions about the development, functionality, and purpose of the agribusiness innovation ecosystem? So in terms of purpose, the AIE, so the Agribusiness Innovation Ecosystem in Region 7, is perceived by stakeholders as a strategic driver of sustainable economic growth, primarily by, number one, enhancing food security through innovations. For example, they mentioned their aquaculture, supporting the milkfish production, crop production, supporting coconut and palm oil, and processed goods production, so sweet potato chips, goat cheese, and others. Increasing farmer incomes via value-adding processes that improve productivity, support enterprise creation, and promoting environmental sustainability, such as research related to waste reduction. So the use of organic fertilizer, non-sugar product substitutes, and briquettes, charcoal briquettes. Others also related to integrating farm-based tourism as a way of supporting and enhancing incomes for the farms. The innovation ecosystem functions as an interconnected network where higher education institutions, government agencies, and private enterprises and communities collaboratively exchange knowledge, expertise, and resources. This includes sharing research findings, technical assistance, training, and even sometimes infrastructure of the higher education institutions, and also market information whenever available to address the agribusiness challenges. However, while key functions of the AIE are being fulfilled to a certain extent, such as knowledge and resource sharing, the agribusiness innovation ecosystem remains fragmented. Programs like the distribution of dwarf coconut seedlings implemented by the Philippine Coconut Authority before, as mentioned by one of the key informants, demonstrate innovation uptake. There's actually very high uptake. However, the efforts were isolated and lack alignment with the overall framework to support agribusiness innovation ecosystem. So some of the stakeholders highlight the absence of a coordinated plan and unified strategies across all government levels. Although the initiatives, for example, of the One Town, One Product and incubator support for agri-startups exist, their impact is diluted by fragmented implementation and unclear direction, resulting in missed opportunities and for synergy and scale. Ecosystem actors view that the agribusiness innovation ecosystem as limited and in its early stages. Many recognize the potential for growth, especially from the innovative and new products, especially with the support of HEIs, local enterprises, and government promoting these new agri-technologies. Yet without a clear agribusiness innovation agenda, activities remain dispersed. For instance, various cooperatives in Cebu independently develop products. For example, it was mentioned goat cheese or organic fertilizers, but they operate in silos without a shared roadmap. So who will use this? Who are their markets, and how is it going to be promoted? Stakeholders therefore describe the ecosystem as promising but underdeveloped, requiring stronger strategic alignment and integration to evolve. Okay, so who are the actors? Again, next slide, please. Research question 2 identifies how HEIs are perceived. How are HEIs perceived by innovation actors to primarily function? So how are they functioning? So we identified 4 main functions of HEIs: knowledge sharers, conveners, innovators, and trainers. So as knowledge sharers, HEIs act as repositories and disseminators of research-based knowledge, supporting both academic and industry stakeholders. Through initiatives, for example, there was a mention of a materials library that actually holds a number of samples that can be looked at by textile and other manufacturing companies. They provide public access to data, samples, and technical expertise. Their partnerships with government and NGOs also support knowledge transfer on agribusiness technologies to farmers and MSMEs. As conveners, HEIs bring together diverse actors government, private firms, NGOs, and farmers groups through research collaborations, fab labs, incubators, and even innovation events. Their convening role, is able to link some funders to farmers, researchers to some entrepreneurs, and collaboration of multi-stakeholders. As innovators, through the research and development units located in the HEIs, they are able to generate new technologies, processes, and addressing agricultural challenges. They explore alternative uses of for commodities, develop biotechnology applications, especially if the HEIs is equipped with modern laboratories, and support product innovation in sectors like food processing and organic farming. These research outputs provide practical solutions that agribusinesses can adopt, enhancing sustainability and competitiveness. As trainers, HEIs provide tailored training in agribusiness and entrepreneurship, not just to MSMEs, but not just to their students, but also to farmers and MSMEs. They are able to conduct webinars, they are able to run food innovation facilities and adjust their curricula to some extent to include agribusiness and aquaculture tracks. So these efforts help build human capital that would, in a way, ensure that the know-how is translated to skills and practical capabilities in the communities. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I just want to highlight some of the research support for research and development that the HEIs are conducting. No? So especially for Region 7. So the research portfolio encompasses innovative approaches to waste utilization, such as converting mango waste into alternative flour and exploring uses for coffee, cacao, and banana byproducts. HEIs also in the region are able to are at the forefront of reviving traditional industries, as exemplified by Cebu Normal University's work on the cinnamon industry. Sustainable farming practices are another key focus, with research on organic farming, seaweed cultivation, and others. There's also a number of food innovation centers in the HEIs in Region 7, driving product development and supporting local MSMEs. Additionally, HEIs are addressing environmental concerns through biodiversity conservation research, exploring the potential for agriculture technology solutions in the area. So I just want to highlight these are what's happening in the HEIs that we talk to in the region. Next slide, please. So now let's look at research question 3, looking at how partnerships are actually being built by the HEIs. No? So what's the level of partnerships and coordination of HEIs with other actors in the agribusiness innovation ecosystem? We find that collaboration between HEIs and other actors within the agribusiness innovation ecosystem is actually multifaceted, with varying degrees of strength, but in general, it remains high. For example, some public and private HEIs demonstrate active involvement through curricular enhancement and strategic partnerships, particularly with government agencies and NGOs. But in contrast, again, there's contrast to this, no? Because we heard from business groups that they mentioned they have limited awareness of HEI activities and initiatives, limiting the connection of HEI. So again, there's a balancing act that we have to do there. Okay. Okay. So I'll try to talk faster. So in terms of factors, so we identified a number of factors. There we mentioned 7, but in the interest of time, let me just highlight 2 or 3. So for example, number 1 is in terms of technology. Technological advancements have facilitated smoother communication among agribusiness innovation ecosystem stakeholders through email, chat, and video calls. A representative from an HEI actually mentioned that establishing partnerships proved challenging when done in person due to faculty members' constrained schedules caused by teaching commitments and others. But technology has actually helped address these challenges. So again, there's a value in utilizing technology. Another major factor would be number 6. Let me just highlight that. For the agribusiness innovation ecosystem to grow, strong leadership with a targeted focus on agribusiness initiatives must empower faculty, researchers, and students. This underscores that direction setting by the HEI leadership actually encourages researchers to engage in the agribusiness sector. So there's actually a university that we talked to and highlighted this very important factor. Finally, I want to talk about an innovation council. So there's actually a presence of a dedicated innovation council crucial for integrating HEIs into the innovation ecosystem. The Region 7 actually has a number of regional councils, the CIVARDEC, RDRC, CBFIC, which can enhance collaboration. But again, perhaps we can just build on these existing regional councils. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm still in research question 4. There's still a number of research questions, but I'll try to go through these faster. So we building on the factors that affect the partnerships, as I mentioned in the previous slide, we look at the resources needed by HEIs. So we identified 6, so capacity building and financial development opportunities, financial resources and physical capital, financial incentives and recognition, robust support from leadership and administration, sustainable collaboration and partnerships, and dissemination platforms of HEIs. Let me just highlight the capacity building and financial development opportunities. HEIs actually need more training in entrepreneurship, innovation management, and business development so that they are able to translate this to and support agribusiness stakeholders by providing them the proper training that they are actually looking for. Another important factor that I wish to highlight would be the last one, dissemination of platforms for HEIs. More platforms like innovation fairs, policy forums, and knowledge sharing portals are needed to showcase HEI outputs, foster stakeholder engagement in innovation. So the rest, I will just share the slide with you, or I recommend you read the paper for a more detailed explanation of the others. In the next slide, we want to look at resource provision. So what are the resource needs in research question 4? Research question 5 now looks at what are the HEIs providing? So they're actually providing 2 main things, human capital and expertise, and the physical infrastructure and advanced technological resources. So HEIs are actually a very strong pool of researchers, especially in Region 7. Technical experts and students contributing to R&D training and knowledge transfer for agribusiness, especially for food processing and sustainable farming technologies. We found that there is actually a strength in those areas. For a number of HEIs, we also found that facilities like fabrication laboratories, food innovation centers, research hubs are actually present. They support product development, technology testing, capacity building for MSMEs and cooperatives, so across the agribusiness value chain. But again, these are located in not all, so in select HEIs. So these resources are being provided despite HEIs lacking adequate funding. And the industry somehow hesitates to invest with them due to unclear benefits, and also misalignment of priorities. Because of course, what the industry wants is something that you can marketable innovation and new products, but sometimes that's not the goal of the HEIs. While HEIs provide R&D, they also identified an area for improvement. Stakeholders highlight the need for more practical research, active industry engagement, and improved communication of HEIs. So research question 6, there are 2 research question 6. Next slide, please. The first is about policy. So we identified 3 major categories of policy: national level policies, tax exemption, and a policy responsiveness. So first is to talk about the national level policies. There's the procurement law, civil service rules, and laws enacted to ensure funding. So procurement law, this has been a time immemorial since 2019. Earlier studies have mentioned this. So rigid procurement laws hinder HEI flexibility in engaging with industry partners. Civil service rules, the strict civil service rules discourages faculty from engaging in external partnerships, limit compensation flexibility, and restrict HEIs from competitively attracting innovation-focused talent. Laws enacted to ensure funding. We have the Philippine Innovation Act and the Innovative Startup Act, which mandate innovation and startups funding, but access remains uneven or unclear. So there needs to be a clear mechanism and need to ensure that HEIs have better access to funds for R&D activities. Another would be the tax exemption for cooperatives, which can actually incentivize HEI partnerships to engage with cooperatives because it ensures that they would be tax exempt and the benefits are actually not reduced by paying taxes. Last would be the how responsive HEIs to the call for research by development teams. So one industry representative that we talked to observed that national policies by the DepDev or then NEDA when we were doing the study through the Philippine Development Plan, the industry roadmaps and the other roadmaps or plans developed by the DOST and DOT. HEIs are actually addressing the emerging issues being mentioned by these plans, so motivating the HEIs to fill the gaps in terms of the needs of the stakeholders as information needs. So if there are development plans that says that these are important areas for research, HEIs are actually very responsive to these development plans and information needs. Next slide, please. So that's the government policy. What about the HEI policy? So we identified 4. So first is research and publication policies. So these are central to faculty performance and promotion. On the positive side, this emphasis encourages research that may lead to innovation. However, there's a key disincentive. Publication-driven outputs often do not align with the immediate practical needs of the businesses, those in the agribusiness sector. There's a mismatch between the academic incentives and the industry relevance. Second would be extension and community engagement policies. When these policies prioritize impact and innovation, they serve as strong incentives for HEIs to work directly with farmers and communities. This can lead to the co-developed context-specific agribusiness solutions. However, without a deliberate focus on innovation outcomes, these may fall short in catalyzing transformation. Third would be a very strong intellectual property policies. This plays a crucial role in fostering innovation when IP frameworks clearly define ownership and protect the outputs of faculty and student research. They incentivize deeper HEI engagement. These policies reduce uncertainty and help researchers feel secure in collaborating with industry peers. And finally, partnership policies. When clearly articulated, these facilitate collaboration between HEIs and agribusiness sector. But in their absence, or if institutional priorities are misaligned, potential partnerships may fail or stop. Market. Next slide, please. The next research question is about the market. So market factors, we identified 3. First is limited understanding of the supply chain. Second is about the middlemen restricting farmers' access to resources. And third is the overdependence of agricultural importations. On agricultural importation. So first is the understanding of the supply chain. So many businesses lack information about sourcing, product inputs, market demands. Where do we get this? Is it present in certain markets? So this knowledge gap hinders value chain efficiency, and local governments and industry respondents have explicitly called on HEIs to really fill this gap. So mapping the value chain, identifying potential sources for their inputs and markets. Middlemen controlling market information, especially in terms of pricing. So this restricts farmers' access to fair negotiations and inputs. And the HEIs actually have a role here to address and bridge the knowledge asymmetry and rebalance the negotiation power of farmers. And overdependence on agricultural importation, so heavy reliance on imported agricultural goods. This actually produces a challenge to a number of the agricultural producers, threatening their viability. But HEIs can also address this by channeling R&D towards enhancing the competitiveness of locally produced agricultural goods. So developing new products and improving their quality, branding, and market access. And then finally, research question 8 looks at culture. So there are a number of cultural factors that would affect HEI involvement in the agribusiness innovation ecosystem. Next slide, please, RQ8. So first is about the research output and publication metrics. So for faculty evaluation and promotion, so Well, this again, as mentioned in one of the earlier slides, no, so this encourages academic productivity. It often overshadows the importance of engaging with stakeholders, addressing on-the-ground agricultural business challenges. Another would be the perception of agribusiness as a low priority area, especially in the Region 7, where engineering, IT, and business processing is actually the leading fields. There's actually underinvestment in agribusiness-related programs, but it's actually a large employment-generating sector in the region. There's also a perceived mismatch between HEI's existing expertise and the needs of the agribusiness sector. So this perception discourages HEIs from engaging on this, and it also affects how funders and regulators view HEI's capacity to lead and support agribusiness innovation. And finally, valuing community impact and producing skilled graduates. So many HEIs are motivated by their commitment to community impact and student development. So even without deep agribusiness expertise, HEIs are willing to engage in innovation initiatives to enhance student learning and benefit local communities. So these motivations offer a powerful entry point for expanding HEI participation in agribusiness. All right. So given these responses to all the 8 research questions, next slide, please. We came up with policy recommendations, 4 policy recommendations for the national government or the regional government, in this case, for the area. So strengthening the implementation of supportive innovation policies, adequate funding, review and reform of policies that hinder engagement agribusiness innovation. For instance, policies that are the civil service regulations that to allow HEI faculty and staff to receive additional remuneration for their involvement in innovation activities are examples. So reforms that would help. Another would be develop responsive policies that address emerging issues. HEIs actually play a crucial role in bridging the information gaps. The government should proactively develop policies that address challenges like climate change, food security, and technology disruption. And to do this, they collaborate with HEIs industry to support and the R&D initiatives of the HEIs focusing on these topics. Establish a regional platform for agribusiness innovation collaboration and knowledge sharing. So there are difficulties in forging partnerships between HEIs and stakeholders, especially when the misaligned priorities or even due to the lack of awareness of existing innovations and research being done in the HEIs. So to do this, to address this, the government should establish a platform that facilitates collaboration, knowledge sharing among HEIs, industry stakeholders, government agencies, and other actors. This platform would serve as a hub for information exchange, networking, partnership building, and others. So the platform can also host events like conferences, workshops to stimulate dialogue and collaboration. So the regional offices of NEDA or DepDev and DOST in collaboration with Cebu Technological University can support a Project Agile, central repository for research in Central Visayas. So these are examples of what can be done in the national or in this case, in the regional level. The next slide shows policy recommendations at the HEI level. So develop clear and supportive intellectual property policies. These policies should define ownership arrangements, provide guidelines on IP protection, commercialization, and establish equitable revenue sharing. Align faculty promotion and evaluation criteria to recognize agribusiness innovation activities. This would involve broadening the evaluation metrics to include contributions to research, extension, and entrepreneurship in the agribusiness sector. Establish agribusiness innovation hubs similar to the national level recommendation. So these hubs can provide co-working spaces, prototyping facilities, mentorship programs, and access to funding and markets that are being sought by the agribusiness private sector. stakeholders from the private sector. And then finally, develop curricular and extracurricular programs that foster agribusiness innovation skills and mindsets. So HEIs should integrate entrepreneurship, design thinking, and problem solving into agriculture and business curricula to foster agribusiness innovation skills and mindsets. So enhancing the curricula would also help generate labor force for the agribusiness sector. So these are our findings, and I hope we are able to communicate with you the results of our study. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive presentation, Sir Francis. Indeed, no innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum, and a lot of people, institutions, industries, and communities work together for this. And as we've seen in Central Visayas, higher educations can play a powerful role in connecting the dots, but there are also rooms for improvement, and policies are really necessary in these goals. No, but we really appreciate how HEIs are being critical knowledge sharers, innovators, conveners, and trainers in the agri-business innovation sphere. Muli, maraming salamat, Sir Francis. We will have you again later with Ma'am Connie and our discussants during the open forum. We are receiving some questions, but for our participants po, no, please type in if meron pang mga questions using the Q&A box in the Zoom platform. For our Facebook Live viewers naman po, you may also use the comment section for your questions or your comments, no? Please do not forget to include your name and your affiliation. We will try to accommodate these questions later in our Q&A. Again, for our Facebook Live viewers, e-certificates are available for you. Just stay until the end of our discussion or later use our replay on demand feature to watch and earn your certificates. So just scan the QR code, ayan, flash on your screen and take a quiz. This will also be posted in the comment section of our Facebook Live feed. So all Facebook viewers who will complete this quiz by 10 p.m. tonight will receive their e-certificates via email. Meanwhile, for our participants in Zoom, you may also have the chance to get your e-certificates by answering our feedback survey near the end of this program. Once you complete the form, an e-certificate of participation will also be automatically generated for you. So Zoom participants, please make sure to stay tuned until the end of our webinar and don't miss this chance. Please feel free to share our webinar link and let us know your thoughts also by using the hashtags #FutureReadyHEIs, #AgriInnovation, #HigherEdPH, and #InclusiveInnovation in your social media pages so we can track our discussions and conversations. Now, going back to our session, let's deepen further our discussion, no, based our studies by as we invited 3 experts as discussants to share their insights and thoughts on the studies presented. Let me begin by our first discussant, who is currently the chief of the Education and Skills Development Division at the Department of Economy, Planning, and Development, or DepDev. She has been involved in the education sector for over 15 years now. Prior to DepDev, she worked as a teacher for young children and was part of a government project focused on using technology in education. She earned her master's degree in education from the University of the Philippines and MA in public administration from the Seoul National University. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Ms. Yuko Lisette Domingo. Ma'am, you may now start your presentation.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Ms. Lisette. We can hear you clearly po.
Thank you for the paper of Dr. Connie Dakoykoy. The paper sheds light on the challenges of both public and private higher education institutions in terms of ensuring financial sustainability. A number of the recommendations are actually aligned with the strategies in the Philippine Development Plan. We have been advocating for the establishment of regional universities, of the regional university system, even in the previous administration. The strategy was also emphasized in the current PDP to improve program delivery and ensure complementarity of program offerings between and among public and private HEIs. Similarly, the government has advocated for the transnationalization of higher education as partnerships with reputable institutions on offering programs will enable universities to share resources and tap into new student markets. The PDP also underscores the need to optimize universities as innovation hubs and incubation centers and ensure that research outputs are supported for patenting and commercialization. Commercialization of research outputs can be a potential source of revenue for HEIs. We also agree on some of the recommendations of the researcher, particularly on the importance of developing a long-term plan for the higher education sector, and also developing a culture of foresight thinking, especially for the leaders in both government and the higher education institutions. Moving forward, and to help our higher education institutions broaden their base, there is a need to review existing processes in curriculum development, looking into how it can provide flexibility to HEIs in developing and offering courses based on emerging trends. As mentioned earlier, our students have changing preferences, and even in terms of the courses that they would want to take. So giving a little flexibility for our private HEIs will allow them to address the shifts in learner preferences. HEIs can also continue to develop ladderized education programs, short-term courses, and micro-credentials that can serve a broader demographic of learners and also address the needs of our professionals for continuing professional development. And strengthen capacities of HEI for research and development, including partnerships with industries, so that the researches that they will be developed will be they can be able to commercialize it. For future research, an in-depth study on the experience of the Cordillera State Universities and the University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines as a regional university system can provide better appreciation on having a regional university and how it can affect the financial sustainability of the universities. Lastly, an impact evaluation on the UACTE can provide basis on possible alternative student financial assistance programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Lisette. The perspective from DepDev or from the national government is very straightforward. Have complementary and long-term plans and impact evaluation among other things that you have mentioned. Very crucial and very in sync with the recommendation, especially on the paper of Ma'am Connie. So we actually have a lot of questions, and thank you very much again, Ms. Lisette. Please stay with us for the Q&A. We still have a lot of questions in our Q&A box sa Zoom, and our speakers, discussants, may answer them either live later on or during the session, or type in your responses directly in the Zoom Q&A. So you may there are questions directed to our speakers or presenters. So Sir Francis, Ma'am Connie, you may answer them directly on Zoom or later on sa ating forum po. Now we move on to our second discussant. He is a 2024 Tomas B. Lopez Jr. Professorial Chair for Education and the 10th President of the University of Makati, a leading local university in the Philippines. He is also a standing committee member on higher education of the Philippines' Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2, and also a commander of the Armed Forces of the Philippines under the Philippine Navy Reserve. He finished his BSBA in Economics and MBA degree from Colegio de San Juan de Letran, Manila, and was awarded the San Vicente Liem de la Paz Most Distinguished Alumnus Award. He earned his PhD in Management from the International Academy of Management and Economics and a postgraduate certificate in Futures Thinking from the Asian Institute of Management. Thank you for being with us, Professor Elixir Ramos, or as he wants to be called, Professor X. You may now take the virtual floor. sir.
Maraming salamat at magandang araw po sa lahat ng nandito po sa platform na to. Napaka-timely po nung presentation ni Dr. Lokoykoy kanina dahil ito po ay isa sa mga pinag-uusapan namin sa EDCOM. No? In fact, there is a committee specifically dedicated for that, which is on governance and ensuring the financial sustainability of higher educational institutions, especially with the passage of RA 10687 o yung mas kilala natin na UNIFAST. Dahil po sa pagpasa nitong batas na ito, unang-una po, naging libre na ang pag-aaral sa kolehiyo ng mga estudyante in state colleges and universities and local colleges and universities, which actually endangered the financial viability of a lot of private higher educational institutions. They are complaining na ang laki na nga ng suportang nabibigay ng gobyerno sa mga sa mga public HEIs patungkol sa mga grants at sa mga iba pa. Tapos naging libre pa ang pag-aaral sa kolehiyo na sinusuportahan ng gobyerno sa SUCs at saka LUCs. And because of that, and of course, a lot of other factors as well, it is worth to note that close to 200 private HEIs have already closed down. And ngayon po, no, pinapakita din sa datos na about a big number, in fact, almost doon po sa data na nakita po namin, about 53% ng mga higher educational institutions sa bansa po natin ay less than 1,000 ng kanilang mga estudyante. So the question is, kung ganun lang kaliit ang mga estudyante at nagre-rely ang mga eskwelahan sa tuition fee, paano po kaya talaga magsusurvive financially ang mga higher educational institutions? No? So, ngunit kahit po na meron ng UNIFAST, marami pa rin pong problema kasi in terms of financing, like doon po sa paper na present po ni Dr. Tirso Ronquillo, yung doon po sa pagdinig tungkol sa charter ng CHED, no? Binanggit po doon na yung financial management and sustainability under RA 10931 and RA 8292 ay meron pong mga challenges. Unang-una yung allotments, no? Kasi dati pinalitan na po yung SUC funding through tuition collection with DBM billing. Ang sinasabi nga po nila, hindi naman lahat nare-reimburse sa kanila at kulang pa rin po yung budget na natatanggap nila. Patungkol naman po sa mga LUCs na ang dami na po, yung mga local colleges and universities, it actually makes sense for local chief executives to put up an LUC because you will look good to your constituents. But what is more alarming is that once you put up an LUC, and you invest on the building and the facility and then you register yung programa na pinakamadaling makakuha ng permit from CHED, you can actually pass on the cost of operating it again to the national government. So when we talk about financial sustainability, we're not only talking about the amount of tuition that private HEIs can collect, but also sustainability in the terms of whether government can continue to provide or to subsidize free higher education, especially to SUCs and LUCs. So that's a big challenge. Kaso dapat tama po yung binabanggit kanina dun sa papel na kung gusto natin ng quality education, may kakambal na gastos yan. So the question really that is posed in our minds, especially po na doon sa amin sa Higher Ed Committee sa EDCOM is, sino ba dapat ang bigyan natin ng priority as far as subsidizing or financing education, especially in the tertiary level? Meron na po ba tayong National Education Plan? Ano ba ang mas kailangan i-produce ng ating bansa? Mas kailangan ba natin ng mga doktor? Mas kailangan ba natin ng mga inhinyero? Mas kailangan ba natin ng mga abogado? Kailangan ba na lahat ng kurso kailangan pondohan ng national government for SUCs and LUCs? Paano naman ang mga private HEIs? How can the government help, support private HEIs being partners also in the delivery of quality education in our country? So definitely there are still a lot of issues that needs to be addressed. Sustainability is of course a big factor. Yung mga proposals po doon na maybe a voucher system, and it will be up to the student to choose which institution, either public or private, kung doon siya magpupunta. Sino ba ang qualified na bigyan ng suporta? Do we need to institute like a qualifying exam, a national exam for all, and kung sino lang yung makakapasa, yun lang ang dapat bibigyan ng subsidy? Meron ba tayong na-identify na kung anong kurso ba dapat talaga yung kailangan bigyan ng suporta? At yung complementarity, yung parating pinag-uusapan, no? Yung pagkapantay-pantay nung pagbigay ng suportang at tulong pinansyal, hindi lamang sa mga public HEIs, kung hindi pati sa mga private HEIs. So these are a lot of things that questions that still needs to be answered, and there are still a lot of things that needs to be done. But definitely, reviewing the financial sustainability and taking a look at financial sustainability of private HEIs and state colleges and universities and local colleges and universities is definitely should be top of the agenda. In fact, mai-share ko lamang po, no? Especially for local colleges and universities where actually I belong to, it's very politicized kasi every 3 years there are local elections, and chances are if a new mayor comes in and not aligned or not supportive of the previous leaders in an LUC, ang dali pong hindi bigyan ng pondo, ang dali pong hindi bigyan ng tulong, at ang dali pong hindi bigyan ng suporta. Kaya I also support the recommendation earlier that there should be an LUC Governance Act to ensure also the financial viability of local colleges and universities. So this is something that should also be done, and we also need to actually review RA 8292 and RA 7722, no? Ito pong mga dalawang batas na to para po masiguro na matugunan talaga yung financial viability ng hindi lamang po mga private HEIs, kundi pati na rin po ng SUCs and LUCs. So yun lamang po at maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Professor X, no? Thank you for sharing the various laws and for sharing some actual experiences of our HEIs on the ground. As you have mentioned, ang daming kailangan i-address, complementarity, prioritization, national education plan, and ultimately the need to review or enabling laws to ensure viability of our HEIs. Thank you again, Prof. X. Please stay with us for the Q&A, no? Without further ado now, let me introduce the final and third discussant. He is currently the Chief Economic Development Specialist of the Policy Formulation and Planning Division at the Department of Economy, Planning and Development Regional Office 7. Before joining Dev 7 in June 2021, he was a full-time instructor and chair of the Department of Architecture at the University of San Carlos. He is also a former design officer at the SM Supermalls. In 2016, he obtained his master's degree in urban and regional planning from the University of Iowa in Iowa City, USA. As a scholar of the Fulbright Foreign Student Program, he also holds a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of San Carlos. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome Mr. Neil Andrew Menjares for his recorded video presentation. Team?
Good morning, everyone, and I would like to congratulate the team of Dr. Francis Kimba for presenting their study on the HEIs, i.e. study on higher education institutions, generating holistic and transferable solutions, innovation ecosystems. So on behalf of the Department of Economy, Planning and Development Regional Office 7, formerly known as NEDA 7, please allow me to present our discussions and these are mostly our responses to the study of the team led by Dr. Francis Kimba. Now, in terms of the roles of higher education institutions, particularly on the fragmented AIE's ecosystem or the agriculture innovation ecosystem, well, currently, the Department of Agriculture Region 7 is addressing this through the Agriculture and Fisheries Resource, Research and Extension for Development Network, or AFRIDEN. So, this network is comprised of course, the Department of Agriculture as well as their bureaus. This also includes some members from the academe and even members from the agribusiness sector, especially the agricultural cooperatives. So what we intend to do with AfriDen is to actually close the gap between academe and the users of research products, hopefully, which would be the agribusiness enterprises. So they would like to see more research products being used by the agribusiness industry, and this is what this network is about. So there, at least that way, the Department of Agriculture Region 7 is trying to address the fragmented ecosystem. Now, on the need to develop entrepreneurial skills, so we're actually not surprised as one of the findings of this study because this highlights the persistent challenge of transitioning research products to utilization and commercialization. So not just in agriculture, but even in other sectors. So the Department of Agriculture is trying to address that, particularly through the AFRIDEN. Now, on research needs and provisions, particularly on funding, we can surmise that private investors may be hesitant to provide funding to, uh, to the ecosystem, especially to the agricultural startups, because and especially for startups that have originated from the academe, because they may perceive the researcher or from the academe in general, having inadequate entrepreneurial skills simply because their expertise is in research. It's not necessarily in business. And so they have this lack of perceived immediate benefits. So their perception is they cannot reap the returns of their investments right away simply because, as the researcher, the focus of the researcher is in research, not necessarily in building up a business. Now, this is a gap where the government can come in. Now, another reason why the private investors may be hesitant to invest in these in the ecosystem actors, most especially the agribusiness startups, is that they don't really have a track record yet because they're still starting, and the private investors would see that as a risk. This is where the government come in to help researchers and startups build some track record. In other words, this is where the government can provide the seed money. And there are some initiatives in this under this already. So two of them are the innovation grants and the innovation awards, which by the way is the reason why I cannot join you live this morning because today is the Visayas Subnational Awarding Ceremony for the Innovation Awards. So this is primarily organized by our agency. As mentioned, the Innovation Awards and the Innovation Grants are just some examples of how government can come in to fill in the gap, provide the seed money, and help researchers and startups build some track record. But we do admit that these grants and awards under the Innovation Act are still limited. Now, on government policy, particularly on the new Government Procurement Act, well, we already have that new Government Procurement Act, Republic Act 12009, and the concepts of the most advantageous and responsive and the most economically advantageous and responsive bid are already introduced as a new award criteria. So this reform paves the way for the possibilities that, the government can in the past, government is only used to getting the lowest bid. That's it. Never mind if it's not responsive to the specifications or the qualifications as much as the agency or the government office would like. But now that is possible because of the new Government Procurement Act. And aside from the most economically advantageous and responsive bid criteria, RA 12009 also provides a provision for the procurement of science and technology sector. So if the procurement is under science and technology, then the way that I understand it, based on the information that I know, the procurement under science and technology is already more streamlined and easier. On market forces, particularly on limited information available to businesses, the AfriDen, the network that I talked about earlier, that network can help address this. And there are current initiatives between the Department of Science and Technology, Region 7, and the Chambers of Commerce. They undertook a memorandum of agreement wherein they would like to work closely together so that research products, especially those funded by the DOST 7, notably through their local grants and aid program, they can help facilitate the transition of those research products to be used by industry through the chambers of commerce. So this may be a good reference for replication in the agriculture innovation ecosystem. Now on IEC activities, or IEC that stands for Information, Education, and Communication, IEC activities are now more important than ever. Why is that? Simply because information is power. This takes advantage of social media, or taking advantage of social media as a cost-efficient way to disseminate information. And this also complements other activities such as stakeholders forum. So earlier today, by the way, I'm recording this at 11 p.m. We came from a consultation workshop for the formulation of the regional physical framework plan with the LGUs in the province of Bohol. And one of the feedback, or one of the inputs that we received during that workshop is that the LGUs expressed that they don't really know what research products the SUCs produce. And oftentimes, they are surprised to find out that the state universities actually has research products that the LGUs can actually use. Okay, agricultural research is just one of them. And so they would actually like to see more interaction with state universities, simply because they want to know what's going on, or what are the research products that are being churned out by state universities and colleges. And so a stakeholders forum, or stakeholders fora, especially between not only SUCs, but higher education institutions in general, especially HEIs that produce research that can potentially be used by LGUs. Okay, it's just a matter of letting the LGUs know what the higher education institutions are doing, so that they'll be able to know if there are research products that they can use, especially in the field of agricultural innovation. Now, for the recommendations for the agencies, some of these were presented in the study by the team of Dr. Kimba on inadequate financial resources. So we will continue to advocate for the passage of the Science for Change program. So the S4CP intends to aggressively increase research funding for the various programs of the DOST. The Regional Development Council, during one of its meetings, if I remember correctly, a couple of years ago, they actually passed a resolution expressing support for the House bill on the Science for Change program, or S4CP. But the last time we checked, this did not hurdle in the 19th Congress. So we'll see if this will be refiled in the current 20th Congress. Still on inadequate financial resources, we think that there should be continued support for programs like the local grants and aid program, the innovation grants, and the innovation awards. On higher education institution engagement in agribusiness, as I mentioned earlier, we are currently updating the regional physical framework plan, and what the higher education institutions can do is to take cues from the plan, from the regional physical framework plan, on what programs to offer. Actually, during our consultation earlier today, DepEd, the Department of Education Region 7 expressed this yesterday during the day one of our consultation. They now see the value of the regional physical framework plan, especially areas in the region that are planned for agribusiness, or maybe that are areas that are designated as an agribusiness corridor, for example. And for DepEd, what we can do is to offer agribusiness programs or agribusiness related programs in their senior high school program in the areas designated as an agribusiness corridor. So um, because of that feedback given by the DepEd last Tuesday, we think that the HEIs can take a similar approach as to, especially for, in the case of Bohol, the Bohol Island State University has many campuses around the province, and so maybe they can offer more agriculture-related courses or programs in areas or in their campuses where the agribusiness corridor is designated. And then it would also be good practice to extend the business mentoring programs to agricultural startups. So the DA does this. Perhaps even the DTI can help in this because they have existing business mentoring program. It's just that they are not focused on the agriculture startups and MSMEs. Now, on the emerging issues, still on the recommendations for agencies, currently the Regional Development Council in Region 7 has what we call the Regional Innovation Committee. And there is another body actually that is related to it. It's called the Regional Development Research Council. There are now moves to actually merge these two bodies into one. And this would now be called, it is still a proposal, it's not yet final. It would already be called the Regional Innovation and Research Development Committee under the Regional Development Council. And this would be a platform for collaboration to address emerging issues, especially that this committee has a varied membership ranging from government agencies to academe and even private sector representatives. On the regional platform, so two of these platforms I already mentioned earlier, the AfriDen and the Regional Innovation Committee, which will be merged with the Research Development Research Council. The Project Agile was mentioned in the study. Okay? There is great potential for this. Unfortunately, on our end, we're still working on the technical details of the Project Agile, but hopefully we hope to see Project Agile take off really soon. And again, I just would like to present this again. This is the strategy framework to modernize agriculture and agribusiness in Central Visayas, taken from the Regional Development Plan 2023 to 2028. And I would like to give attention especially to the bottom part of this framework, which is to strengthen agricultural institutions. And some of the strategies under it are to intensify research, development, and extension for agriculture and fishery and strengthen the collaboration of public and private organizations for agriculture, forestry, and fisheries agenda. And we are thankful to the team of Dr. Kimba for finishing this study, which I think is very supportive of our regional development plan, especially in modernizing agriculture and agribusiness. So that ends my discussion. Hopefully that is valuable input for our participants this morning. So if you have any questions or if you would like to share thoughts about our discussion, our contact details are shown on the screen. So thank you and mayong buntag sa tanan.
And thank you so much, Mr. Menharis. No, we are grateful that he could join us virtually through his recorded presentation. We are grateful not to hear the insights naman of the Dev Region 7 in terms of their plans, of their efforts and their initiatives on related to the things that we have discussed and related to the study of Dr. Francis. So before we start the open forum, I would like to ask Dr. Connie, Dr. Francis, if you have thoughts or on the comments of our discussants, brief comments of our discussants. I'd like to start with Dr. Connie, ma'am.
Hi, Alexa. What was the question again? Sorry.
The question, ma'am, is if you have any initial thoughts or comments on the of what our discussants shared.
Yeah. Wala naman except that really thankful that they spent time with us today and shared their insights. And I'm very grateful that they are able to, ano ba, parang grateful in the sense that they agree with most of the their recommendations of the study. So hopefully we can have more discussion later.
Thank you, ma'am. How about Sir Francis?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm grateful to Region 7, um, Sir Neil for his discussion, no, in identifying key areas in the research that are also um, being addressed by the strategies and policies in the um, DepDev Region 7. So I truly appreciate first identifying areas that they found helpful and supportive of the strategies that they are all implementing. Um, uh, Also, some of the activities that they are doing, especially the Project Agile, was already mentioned in the paper as a good starting point. No? And we also um, uh, we hope that we are able to provide some evidence and some support for the proper implementation of these activities and strategies. And finally, we are also grateful to them for their appreciation of the research, no? Because um, analyzed or we studied a very specific case in a region that is well far from where we are, no? But we appreciate that we are able to provide an external uh, perspective for them, and they did appreciate the results that we provide them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Francis. We now invite again Dr. Connie, Dr. Francis, Miss Lisette, and Professor X to open their cameras for our open forum. We are also privileged to have with us Dr. Connie's co-author, Dr. Harry Sadel Flores. We would like to invite him also to join our Q&A session, sir, if you may. So for our Zoom participants, please use the Q&A box in our Zoom platform for the questions. And for our Facebook Live viewers, kindly use the comment section. And please do not forget to include your name and your affiliation. So to start the ball rolling po, no, allow me to read some of the questions asked in advance by our registrants. There are actually questions that may be directed to a specific presenter, but our other guests may also answer if you need to po. So, from Miss Mia K. Sabido of Upscale Innovation Hub, do you recommend faculty members, I think this is for Sir Francis, no? Do you recommend faculty members as founders of startups as one way of transferring innovation?
Yeah, that's well, yes, of course, you would want faculty members to earn and benefit from the research that they did, no? So if these are innovative, new research, developing new products, and something that can actually bring development in the market, in a new market, you would actually want to support this type of activity. On the downside, of course, that there's a possibility that they may leave the academe, no, and you would lose one very good researcher participating in the academe and sharing their knowledge. But I am sure that given a background in academe and in research, the cultivation of knowledge would it's going to snowball, because it starts an enterprise, it starts a new market for these new products. So the need for more research for would snowball into something more. So in a way, yes, we want this to happen, but we also would want to have more research and faculty participating also in this, in so that we don't lose our teachers and our professors, and all of them do just well, not just, but all of them starting new enterprises, no? So we want to also keep them also in the HEIs for further knowledge sharing.
Thank you, Sir Francis. No, how about I'd like to ask the same question to Professor X, kasi no, coming from the academe, would you recommend that faculty members as founders of startups be be one way of transferring innovation daw po based on the question and the academe's perspective naman, sir?
Actually, very much, no? What we've found out, actually, ang hirap talaga ay yung teachers at saka yung mga estudyante to give it up. Because parang there is this pride na trabaho namin to eh, gawa namin to eh. So commercializing it and actually asking like a venture capitalist to actually, buy the work or get it from them, it's actually difficult. I fully support it, but there should also be a change in mindset among students and researchers and faculty that this innovation or this project is one of many things that they can actually do. So dapat ganun yung maging mindset talaga ng mga researchers. But on the other side, very few higher educational institutions are actually can be considered as research institutions, even here in our country. So there is a lot of effort being done right now by the OST, by DTI to encourage commercialization of a lot of research work and projects that are being done in schools. And I hope that this can actually, develop, a stronger culture for research and innovation amongst students and campuses. Para naman hindi yung mga projects, hindi yung mga thesis paper nila, yung mga feasibility study nila ay just gathering dust in the libraries na wala naman nagbabasa. I think with the right mindset and the right setup, this can grow. And as a faculty myself, no, I fully support this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor X. No, before we go to the next question, I'd like to mention this comment lang po from one of our participants on Zoom, from from our UNDP policy specialist, Mr. Elpidio Peria. He notes that given the poll quiz results earlier on showing support for strong industry government collaboration, he said that the DENR's Access and Benefit Sharing Project proposes benefit sharing mechanisms that channel biodiversity research gains to both resource communities and SUCs and HEIs, refining the study's call for more targeted and creative partnership. So, na-share niya itong collaboration or project of DNR's project. So yeah, it's just to share with our presenters and our participants as well. Next question from Mr. Mel Greg Concepcion of the Philippine Normal University. I think this has been answered by Dr. Connie in the Q&A box. But ma'am, you may want to share or elaborate your answers for our FB Live viewers. The question is, working capital and long-term funding are key to educational institutions' financial sustainability. What evidence from HEIs and government agencies did your study use to support this? Ma'am, you may want to elaborate your answer on the Zoom chat box.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, as mentioned earlier, no, we collected secondary data also from SEC, from COA, and from CHED. And then, so to the extent possible, we wanted the disaggregated data. Unfortunately, when we were trying to harmonize the data that we've collected, butas-butas, tas ang hirap pag i-integrate. And so, ang nakuhanan lang namin talaga ng matinong data would be yung enrollment, and at the same time yung general source, yung overall or aggregated source of revenue. So unfortunately, we didn't use the secondary data that we collected, and that's why the result of the paper mostly relies on the qualitative data collection, which would be the interviews. But I think that we shouldn't dismiss the experiences of people on the ground, because sometimes they tell more than the quantitative data. Perhaps my co-author Del would like to answer that, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Doc Connie. From our interviews with administrators from SUCs, I think they also emphasize the importance of putting more investments in capital outlay, considering that the enrollment in our SUCs now are growing. It is becoming more difficult for them to be able to provide the quality of service that they want to, because of the lack of adequate funding for facilities and also classrooms. So I think that's on the point of view of the SUCs, our public HEIs, that's something that's important. Again, their ability to be able to raise internal revenues would also help on this regard, given that they have more flexibility in utilizing these revenues, this income. However, again, in many regions in our country, SUCs have limited sources of internal revenue. So I think these are some of the challenges that we have to be able to address, to be able to help our SUCs promote sustainability in their operations.
Thank you, Ma'am Connie and Sir Hersadel. Interesting, no? Another question from our Zoom anonymous attendee, no? I'd like to ask Miss Lisette here first because it talks about some plans, no? Sabi po nung ating attendee is, EDCOM 2 is crafting the National Education and Workforce Development Plan. So the question is, how does this plan address or might address the key recommendations from the studies and from the inputs that you have shared po earlier on?
The development of the National Education and Workforce Development Plan is still ongoing. So wala pa yung final document from it. So it will also be difficult to respond how it will align. But from the discussions, it's taking into consideration also the findings, of course, of the EDCOM 2 in the year 1 and year 2 report. But until it gets finalized, we see the full document. Only then we will be able to respond appropriately dun sa question.
Thank you, Ma'am Lisette. Because we mentioned no, si Prof. X is also being part of the EDCOM. Sir, ano na kaya ang progress dito sa National Education and Workforce Development Plan if you have updates for all of us
Yeah.
here?
So part of the mandate of EDCOM 2 is to actually come up with that report, the National Education Plan and the National Workforce Development Plan. So we were given a 3-year mandate. So that's why we're having series of consultative meetings. We've been doing several workshops already. And the goal is by the end of the year, when our term as when the commission ceases to exist, because it's a 3-year commission, then that's part of the things that we need to submit to the president. 2 weeks ago, we had the consultative meeting with CHED to review their charter. Last week, it was with TESDA, and this week, it's scheduled for DepEd. But other than that, we have been having, as I mentioned, series of consultative meetings. That's why during my discussion earlier, the questions that popped up was, what's really our national agenda as far as education is concerned? What programs do we need to prioritize? So these are just some of the issues that we're talking about when we're talking about the National Education Development Plan, and part of it also is a finalization of the PQF, the Philippine Qualifications Framework. So these are things that hopefully by the end of the year, the commission will be able to submit to the president.
Thank you, sir, for the update. No, we look forward to those plans and outputs from the EDCOM na we are hopeful to empower our education systems. No? So next question from Mr. Juan Raul Relioso from the Ateneo de Naga University. Siguro I'd like to address this first to Ma'am Connie. No? Actually, na-mention na ito kanina dun sa mga policy recommendations, but this is a very specific question on what policy reforms could address the unintended consequences of the free higher education law on private HEIs enrollment and financial viability. So I think you have touched on on the policy recommendations a while back, no? But focusing on the unintended consequences ng free education, kaya ma'am, would you have more insights or thoughts on this question?
Yung pag sinabi nating unintended consequence, ito yung private HEIs enrollments have decreased. Yun ba yun? Enrollments have decreased.
Yes.
And so, actually, yung sinabi ko kanina sa recommendation na what we wanted is let the students decide where they want to go. Kasi sometimes, ang based sa conversation with stakeholders, they were saying that there is a inherent bias in favor of the public HEIs when it comes to providing supports to students. And so, yun, what we wanted to do is to eliminate that bias. And so one way of doing that, for example, is to let the students decide where they want to go. And then another one would be yung sa SUCs, implement socialized tuition fees instead of parang across the what do you call this, parang across the board granting of support. And ano dyan is that the problem is even those that can afford to pay can invest in their education privately, nakakakuha ng support. So, that's also one unintended consequence of the free tuition. And so, as much as possible, we wanted to eliminate that kind of unintended consequence. So, these are the things that that can be explored, can be considered, dapat pag-aralan on how to do it. Pero yung UP before, if I'm not mistaken, during my time, there's the STFAP, and so it's a socialized tuition fee depending on how your ability, your household's ability to pay, depende sa income. So it was working very well because it's socialized, it's ladderized. But somewhere along the way, it gets scrapped. But I think it was working very well, and something that perhaps we can also implement again. Yeah.
Yeah. STFAP is very familiar with the older batches naman. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Connie. Ma'am Lisette, would you have answers to the question also?
As mentioned earlier, because there has not been a study on how the UAQTE, the impact of the UAQTE in terms of viability of the SUCs, of private HEIs, terms of sino ba yung population that benefited on the UAQTE, because the previously ang gusto kasi talaga natin is to increase yung access of the poor to higher education. So as mentioned earlier, we need to do an impact evaluation on the UAQTE. So this will further provide basis on our next steps in terms of implementing the law.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone also other guests kung meron po tayong additional input on that? If none, I'd like to ask this interesting question lang. Simple questions, but from Loran Camille Sara of Cavite State University, 13 Martires campus. Siguro kay Sir Francis muna ito, no? And then kay Prof. X. How do we tap administrators who are still hesitant to invest in technologies, softwares, and the like? So ito ay sa pag-usap natin on innovation, siguro ito ang kanyang tanong. Go ahead, sir. Sir, you're on mute.
Sorry. So we are talking about administrators hesitant to utilize technology and innovation.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I think because at least for the case of Region 7, no, I think it's important that we highlight that we are actually looking at a very specific case. No? So it's Region 7, agribusiness innovation ecosystem, and the stakeholders and the actors in this innovation ecosystem. But okay, so if we're looking at this very specific case, what we found out is that one, we can build on their responsiveness. No? So I think in one of our findings, no, so we found that the one of the um, uh, incentives or factors that motivate the use of or the conduct of innovation is that the faculty in the HEIs are actually very responsive to the development plans that are being the content of the development plans that are being released by the government. So for example, in the Region 7 regional development plan, there's a call for a need for climate change research, for sustainable development research. The HAIs will actually use those as inputs and as a supporting document in order to justify the conduct of the research that's being done. No? So there can actually be a push. So if the local government or the regional development committees or the RECOM would actually push and provide a signal to the HEIs that there is a need for you to conduct research on these sectors or on these topics, that's actually a way to incentivize, to motivate, and to increase awareness on certain topics. No? So that's actually a good way to yeah, push the administrators to become more aware of certain topics and to do research and to adapt on the use of these topics. So that's one way.
Thank you, Sir Francis. Sir Professor X.
Yeah, I think we have to put the question in context kasi I highly doubt that school administrators would not buy into technology or investing into technological reforms. Maybe it's a question of prioritization in terms of budget. Kasi kung wala naman talagang pera, ano ba ang uunahin mo? Yung personnel services ba o investments in equipment? I think it's a question of prioritization, having the right balance of funding. So you go back again to the study of Dr. Dokoy Koy, no? If you want quality education, then it entails cost. So at the end of the day, sino bang uunahin mo? Do you invest more on teachers first or do you invest in equipment? First, ideally, it would be best if you have so much money and you can actually pour in all of the resources that are needed. But what I'm saying is inevitably this is something that we cannot escape. Using technology in the delivery of quality education is something that we cannot inevitably, get out from. So, especially in our experience during the pandemic, that everyone has to shift to an online or a technology-based platform type of learning. So, siguro, ano yan, sabi ko nga, a question siguro yan ng prioritization, budget. We don't know the other factors that are involved in the question, but I don't see any reason why administrators would not invest on it if they have the resources to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. X. Ma'am Lisette, do you want to add something? Yeah, okay na. Ang dami pa pong tanong actually in our Zoom Q&A chat box, no? Sana you have time to answer them. But I guess we go down to our last question to all of our guests, no? It's hard to pick the last question for everyone, but eto na lang siguro from our anonymous Zoom attendee. I'd like to throw in this to everyone po, no? This would be our last and final question for this Q&A session. Can the panel share insights, comments, and thoughts on how delays in curriculum reforms or maybe other policy reforms are affecting the global competitiveness of Philippine higher education institutions, particularly in comparison to neighboring countries that are already implementing future-proof and industry-aligned programs? So, sige po. Siguro we can start with Sir Del. Sir Del Flores.
Yes, thank you, Alisa. With regard to aligning our curriculum to global standards, I think the priority of our country as a developing economy would be to look into what would be the needs of our industries. What is the domestic situation? Ano yung skills that are needed from our human capital and our human resources, and be able to respond to this. Now, if these skills, these competencies are somehow also being something that's also being offered in other countries as well, then we have to see where we are lagging, ano yung mga strengths that we can also optimize to be able to come up with a policy that will allow us to become more competitive. But again, this also boils down to the availability of resources that is being given to our universities. What would be the capacity to invest in needed technologies, in needed upskilling, for example, to be able to cascade yung mga what would be needed in terms of developing our curriculum to of course upgrade yung human capital in our country.
Thank you, sir, no? Looking into the needs of the industry. How about you, Miss Lisette?
Um, in terms of delays, medyo matagal yung process of updating sa CHED ng PSG. So, kailangan tingnan yung current process. How can we streamline? And yung may experts ba? Kasi one of the problems in terms of curriculum development, yung availability din ng experts who will sit in that technical panel. So, and then yung sa private HEIs, they also need to comply with the minimum PSGs. So yung mawawala din yung flexibility. So kailangan tingnan yung proseso, and at the same time look into, for example, for our autonomous universities, what type of flexibility in terms of curriculum development can they have? Yung regulations ba ng CHED are too stringent na even the autonomous universities cannot develop their own programs. In that way, those universities that have proven to give quality education will be able to address yung needs of the labor market and for our education students to be globally competitive.
Thank you, ma'am. I see a lot of like and heart reacts on your responses because they're very practical, no issues that are affecting our curriculum development. How about Ma'am Connie?
Susugan ko lang yung mga nasabi na nila. Actually, I agree with all those things. Ang isa ko lang share na insight is that yung kabagalan really gets in the way of the internationalization. Kasi internationalization kasi you need to have partners. And so, paano kung ang bagal ba, yung halimbawa dual programs, offering ng dual programs. So, kung mabagal ang pag-approve ng curriculum, partners will be turned off. Kumbaga, ayaw na nila kasi ang bagal ng galawan. So it gets in the way of other initiatives in terms of internationalization, in terms of quality enhancing initiatives. So yun nga, tama si Miss Lisette, that kailangan tingnan talaga natin on how to improve yung in terms of time, from yung turnaround time, from approval, review and approval, how do we improve yung sa loob mismo ng CHED na walang mga experts, yung mga yung sa technical panel nila, how you convene that, and how do you incentivize? Kasi the way I understood, parang wala namang incentives, and so some just heard, ano na lang to, anecdotes, no? That kumbaga parang hindi masyadong napofokusan kasi yan nga, parang it's just a community service of some sort. So do we take a look into, do we incentivize so that we can speed up, things like that. Yan lang, sige. Others naman, Alaysa.
Thank you, Ma'am Connie. No, very practical din. Dami ding naglalike and nakaka-relate siguro ating mga participants. Yes, Sir Francis?
I keep muting myself. Okay, so I think I also agree with what has been said. No, I think one insight that I have because about the delay is and we've based on the results of the study. Because the universities, the HEIs that we talk to, they're also trying to address the needs of the industry by change or making some changes in their curriculum. But again, there's a delay, so they are not able to fully address the needs of the industry. But I want to highlight that as also mentioned in one of the questions, no, so we want to move forward from agribusiness, no? So iba na yung gusto nating sector na makita, no? So it's more of a biodiversity, so it's not really just, and that just highlights what the future will look like, a future that is rapidly changing, where the skills and the industries are rapid, and the skills needs of the industries are rapidly evolving. So a slow reform in the curriculum is something that would really affect how our competitiveness will be. So I would like to support what Ms. Lisette has mentioned about some strategy. Okay, so mabagal nga talaga siya. But are there some strategies that we can do? So the flexibility for some of the autonomous HEIs, perhaps we can really utilize this pathway, so increase the flexibility, provide them opportunities to become more responsive, because that's going to be really our future, a future that is very volatile and rapidly evolving. So we need to be able to address this also quite rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Francis. And the final answer from Professor X.
Yeah. What was shared by everyone on the screen is very true. No, CHED's role is twofold: developmental and regulatory. But the problem is the system in place is very regulatory in nature. Lahat ng nakikinig dito ng mga higher educational institutions, their wish is to get more autonomy, more flexibility. But, being an autonomous institution is very expensive. Not all higher educational institutions can afford accreditation, etc., so that they can get autonomous status. But there are a lot of very good higher educational institutions, not necessarily autonomous in nature, but you see, there's no pathway for them to have this freedom. Sabi ko nga kasi masyado siyang mahal. And what we have learned also in my experience as a president of a university is between academe and industry partnership or linkages, the weaker link actually is the academic institution. because they are always hounded by too much regulation. So, yung sinishare kanina ni Sir Francis na, oh, the partner wants to do this, wants to implement this changes in the curriculum. If you present it to CHED, no, it will take some time before it gets approved. So, there should be, some suggestions like if you have already established a certain level of reputation, I think you should be given more freedom and more leeway kasi hindi mo naman itataya yung pangalan ng institution mo, no? If you offer programs that are not of quality, because at the end of the day, ikaw din naman ang babalikan ng mga partners mo at saka ng mga estudyante. So, just to cite, a particular instance, how unresponsive we are, no, in terms of the changing climate. We had an opportunity when K to 12 was implemented because a lot of the general education subjects were already downloaded to senior high school. We could have used that opportunity to reduce the number of years in college from 4 years to maybe 3 years and 3.5 years. Kaso ang ginawa, pinalitan lang din yung mga nawala ng mga Gen Ed subjects ng professional courses na, as mentioned nga by Dr. Lisette, some of them were not really consulted with the industry kung kailangan ba talaga yon. Is it something that is needed? So a lot of factors, no? But at the end of the day, hopefully with the new with all of these reforms that we are doing, more particularly in education, with EDCOM 2, we have a new DepEd Secretary, we have a new TESDA Director General, we have new commissioners right now at CHED. Hopefully, all of these three agencies that are tasked to provide quality education in our country, are all aligned. And at the end of the day, we can really offer world-class quality education. Just like to end with a statement, no? I'd like to quote Senator Gatchalian on this in a PIVED conference because if you ask Filipinos their perception about education in our country, maganda pa rin eh. Pag nirate nila ang DepEd, nirate nila ang CHED, nirate nila ang TESDA, mataas. And sabi nga niya, the reason probably why we rate them high is because most Filipinos don't know what quality education looks like. Para kasi sa atin, basta may libro, basta may classroom, may teacher, quality education na. No? So we have to also educate fellow Filipinos what quality education really looks like. So may it be in the development of the curriculum, offering programs that are really responsive to the needs of what the industry wants. So these are just one of the things that we can do. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor X. Thank you very much to all our presenters and discussants, as well as our participants on Zoom and Facebook. There are questions still unanswered in the chat box, and we'll try to respond to these questions. Our team will send to our speakers and discussants today, and their answers will be sent to your email addresses. Oh, yep. So we're now actually in the final stretch of our program. Before we officially wrap up, I know I've asked the final question, but we'd like to hear your final or some closing statements from everyone, from our presenters and our discussants as well. I'll start with Sir Del Flores. Final thoughts, please.
Yes, thank you again, Alisa. So I think one common theme that had been that has surfaced in our discussions this morning would be the need for more fiscal autonomy on the part of our higher education institutions, especially the public HEIs, but on the part of the private HEIs, of course, access to more capital, to more funding would be very helpful in promoting the development of our higher education system. Again, the importance of linking up with the industry was also highlighted. But for our HCIs to be able to do that, again, they need to have more resources and more flexibility in their processes and systems to be able to pursue genuine reforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to ask also Miss Lisette for final closing statement.
Right. There's a need to look into in terms of the current policies and programs that we have. There's a new CHED commissioner, a CHED chair, so hopefully we'll have more of the discussions and the new concerns natin in terms of higher education, ma-discuss pa and ma-address ng current na administration.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir Francis, please.
I want to highlight what Sir Randy has mentioned in his opening statement that HEIs have is critical in nation building. No? So they have a very important role in supporting the development of key sectors, especially in certain regions. But of course, if in order for them to do this, it's tama si Professor X that money talks. If kung wala kang pera, hindi mo magagawa yung kailangan mong gawin. And we want to for HEIs to have better access to resources, especially funding, in order for them to do what they need.
Thank you, Sir Francis. How about Ma'am Connie, please?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yun, money talks. So, jumping point ko yun, gusto ko lang i-emphasize na yun nga. Yung attaining quality education and financial sustainability, it will create virtuous cycle. So, kailangan mo ng financial sustainability in order for you to deliver quality outcomes. If HEIs are able to deliver quality outcomes, then they will attract enrollments, they will attract funders, collaborators, and so it will feed into the financial sustainability as well. So it's a virtuous cycle. But again, we have to recognize na yung ating HEI ecosystem is really heterogeneous, and therefore, ang polisiya talaga natin should also be nuanced. Yun lang, Liza. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Connie. And our final discussant, Sir Professor X, please.
Yeah. So, I'd rather pose the question na ano ba ang vision natin para sa bansa natin in terms of education is concerned. Kung lahat tayo nagkakaisa that we want a better future for education in our country, then we must all play our role in being able to achieve that vision. Yung sinabi nga ni Dr. Dokoykoy, sometimes it's a question of chicken and egg. If the school or the higher educational institution is perceived to be of quality, pupuntahan ka ng mga estudyante at mag-e-enroll sila dyan. Kaya lang, on the other hand, how can you build quality if you won't actually invest? So kailangan meron ka ding financial viability as far as your institution is concerned. So hopefully, lahat po ng lahat ng nandito sa platform na to, lahat ng nakikinig ngayon and joining us, my wish for them is for them, to have that financial flexibility and for them to really be a contributor to our nation's progress by offering quality education.
Maraming salamat, Professor X. Ano ba talaga ang ating vision for our education? So that's a fitting last question for our 400 plus Zoom participants and over 50 Facebook Live viewers. Once again, thank you very much to our panel for the valuable insights and to our audience for posing in beautiful questions at napag-uusapan natin ng mas malalim pa. Let's give everyone a virtual round of applause. Ayan, ang daming heart and applause react. So before we officially close the program, let me first announce the raffle winners. For those joining our event for the first time, the PIDS team selects 2 winners from the Zoom audience and 1 winner from Facebook. The team has prepared some tokens for you, which we will contact you for details of this. So from our Zoom participants, congratulations to Juan Raul Relioso from the Ateneo de Naga University, and to Elpidio Peria from Jeff UNDP DNR BMB ABS project. Congratulations po sa inyo. And of course, we also have one lucky Facebook Live viewer. Congratulations, Jerry Cano from Cagayan de Oro. So congratulations again. The PEDS Tech team will coordinate with you on how you will claim your prizes. Once again, we appreciate your attendance and participation today. The speakers' presentations will be available at the PIDS website at www.pids.gov.ph/events. Meanwhile, you can download the copy of the studies from the links provided in the Zoom chat box and the Facebook comment section. We also want to hear your thoughts about today's program, so please help us improve our events by answering our feedback form through the link provided in the Zoom chat box and in the comment section of Facebook. So once again, to our Zoom participants, please note that e-certificates of participation will be sent to your email automatically after submitting the completed feedback form. Your feedback and recommendations will make our upcoming events better. And of course, para naman sa ating Facebook viewers, our replay on demand is available. Complete the pop quiz mentioned earlier to receive your e-certificate. Remember, your participation in this quiz is not only a great way to reinforce what we've learned today, but also the key to receiving your certificates of participation. You have until 10 p.m. of today to submit your answer, so please make sure you don't miss it. Keep in touch also with the PIDS. Follow our official Facebook, Twitter or X, and YouTube channels for more updates. Feel free to visit our websites for more information. We are hopeful to have you again at our future events. Join us in our upcoming hybrid event on July 22. That's next week, Tuesday. This is co-organized by the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and this is the 10th installment of the Socio-Economic Research Portal for the Philippines, or SERPI, Knowledge Sharing Forum. Please visit our webpage to learn the details of our coming events and register. The registration poster is also flashed on your screen. Again, a huge thanks to our amazing speakers and panelists for sharing their thoughts on how changes in our are affecting the way we live and how policies can evolve to keep things inclusive and sustainable, especially for our higher education institutions. Finally, thank you for our participants from the government and private sector, the academe, the civil society, and our international development organization. Again, our takeaway, our HEIs are not just schools, but they are also nation builders. Thank you once again. This has been your host, Eliza Briones Mendoza of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. Thank you everyone and have a great day. Maraming salamat.